Have you ever wondered why certain emotional reactions feel too big for the moment you're in? Why some relationships feel oddly familiar even before they begin? Why no matter how much progress you make in life, there's a silent tug pulling you back towards something unresolved? What if that something isn't outside of you at all but deep within? What if it began long before your first memory etched not in words, but in sensation, in tone of voice, in presence, or the lack of it? This is not a conversation about blame or resentment. This is a journey inward, a journey into the forgotten foundation of your emotional life, your earliest bond, that first attachment that silently wrote the script for your beliefs about love, safety, and self-worth. A script most of us are still reading from without even knowing it. Before we go deeper, if you find value in these kinds of insights, if self-awareness and emotional clarity are part of your journey, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications. You can also join our private community for early access to content and in-depth explorations we don't share publicly. Now, let's begin. From the moment you were born, you entered a world you didn't understand, a world of sensations, cold air, bright lights, strange sounds. But within that chaos, there was usually one constant, the presence of the one who first held you, the one whose heartbeat you had already memorized from the inside. We rarely think of our caregivers, especially our primary one, as more than roles, but they are more than people. In our earliest years, they are our entire world. The sun, the moon, the weather, the landscape, they are the mirror through which we first meet ourselves. And that first mirror doesn't just reflect, it shapes. Long before you could speak, you absorbed messages. Was love warm and consistent? Was attention unpredictable? Did affection come with strings attached? These experiences didn't just influence how you felt in the moment, they became the architecture of your emotional life. This architecture becomes what some call the invisible parent, not the actual person, but the internal image you form of them. This image becomes the blueprint you unconsciously carry into adulthood, into friendships, partnerships, authority figures, even the way you speak to yourself when you fail or succeed. The invisible parent doesn't fade with time. It follows you not to haunt, but to be healed. Let's look at this more closely. You may not remember your first 3 years of life, but your body does. Your nervous system does. These early patterns shape how you respond to closeness, to conflict, to uncertainty, and unless made conscious, they repeat. Maybe you find yourself shrinking in the face of criticism, or chasing unavailable people, or overperforming just to feel enough. These behaviors don't arise out of nowhere. They are echoes of an old agreement. If I act this way, I'll be safe. If I become this, I'll be loved. You didn't choose this contract. It was written for you in the language of need, survival, and belonging. But here's the powerful truth. You can choose to revise it. And that choice begins with awareness. So ask yourself, in your moments of deepest insecurity, whose voice do you hear? When you feel rejected, who are you really responding to? When you strive to be perfect, who are you still trying to impress? We think we're reacting to the present, but more often we're reenacting the past. These reenactments are not conscious. They're woven into your sense of identity, and they show up in subtle ways. You might find yourself drawn to people who feel oddly familiar, not because they're good for you, but because they fit your blueprint. You repeat dynamics, not because you enjoy the pain, but because your system recognizes the pattern as normal. And when these patterns go unexamined, they become prisons. Soft, invisible ones, built from the bricks of early attachment, sealed with the mortar of unmet needs. Even success doesn't free you. You can build a career, a family, a life that looks perfect from the outside and still feel hollow, because the part of you still waiting to be seen, loved and validated isn't interested in what you have. It's interested in what you believe. And until that belief shifts, nothing outside of you can fill the void inside. So, how do we begin to shift? First, we stop pretending that the past doesn't matter. It does. Not because it defines you, but because it shaped you. Ignoring it won't erase its influence, it only keeps it unconscious. Second, we begin to reparent ourselves. That phrase has become a buzzword, but its meaning is profound. To reparent is not to relive your childhood. It's to become the conscious, nurturing presence that part of you always needed but never received. It's choosing to be patient with your fears, to soothe your anxiety instead of shaming it, to offer yourself structure, safety, and care, not from obligation, but from love. This is not self-indulgence. It's self-liberation. You stop outsourcing your healing to others. You stop expecting your partner to soothe wounds they didn't create. You stop demanding from friends what you haven't yet given to yourself. And as you do this, something shifts. The emotional intensity of the past loses its grip. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop performing and start living. This process isn't linear. It comes with setbacks. Some days, you'll feel like you've broken free. Others, like you've regressed. But each time you return to awareness, you weaken the grip of the old pattern. This is what it means to grow, not to become someone new, but to return to who you were before adaptation took over. Before you learned to shrink, to hustle, to please, to disappear. Before love became conditional. That child still lives within you, not as a weakness, but as a source of your deepest truth. And when you listen, truly listen, you begin to hear what they've been saying all along. I just wanted to feel safe being me. There is a moment in this journey where you stop seeing your parent as a symbol and start seeing them as a person. Flawed, wounded, human. That doesn't excuse the harm they may have caused, but it changes your relationship to it. You no longer carry their weight. You carry your wisdom. You begin to see the intergenerational nature of this pain, that they were shaped too by those who came before. And suddenly, it's not just about you anymore. It's about ending the cycle, not through anger, not through denial, but through understanding. Understanding transforms pain into purpose. It turns unconscious patterns into conscious power. And in that space, you reclaim your authorship. You were handed a script. That was not your choice. But rewriting it, that is, you get to decide how the next chapter unfolds. You get to choose what love looks like for you now, what safety feels like, what kind of presence you offer to yourself, to others, to the world. You are not bound to be a reflection of your past. You are the author of your future. And this isn't about perfection. It's about wholeness. The part of you that strives, the part of you that fears, the part that longs, the part that protects, they're all part of the same being, you. When you stop fighting those parts and instead bring them to the table with compassion, you step into a different kind of power, the kind that no one gave you and no one can take away. What inherited story are you finally ready to release? What internal voice are you ready to question? What version of yourself is waiting to come home? This is not the work of a day or a week. This is the quiet, sacred work of a lifetime. But every step you take ripples outward into your relationships, into your lineage, into the next generation. You're not just healing for you. You're healing for everyone who came before and everyone who will come after. So take a breath. Turn inward. And remember, your origin shaped you, but it does not own you. The rest of the story is yours to write. But there's another layer here, something even more profound that most overlook. The invisible parent is not just a relic of your childhood. It is a living force that continues to influence the way you experience the world as an adult. It shapes your sense of time, your sense of self, and your sense of connection. This force is woven into the very fabric of your perception, coloring your expectations before you even meet someone new. It creates filters through which you interpret kindness or neglect, warmth or indifference. Because early on, when survival depended on reading every nuance, your nervous system learned to expect certain outcomes and brace for others. This is why old wounds often feel so fresh. The invisible parent speaks in subtle signals, in the body's tension, in the voice's tone, in the way you instinctively react before thought even begins. It operates below the surface, like the undercurrent beneath a calm sea, unseen but powerful. To live freely, you must learn to recognize this undercurrent, to name it, to witness it without judgment. This awareness is the beginning of choice. Until you know what you are swimming against, you cannot change course. One of the hardest truths in this process is realizing that the invisible parent is imperfect because the real parent was. They were limited by their own wounds, their own fears, their own lack of awareness. And so the legacy passed down to you was a mixture of love and damage, care and confusion. It's tempting to hold on to resentment, to replay the story of what was missing or what was taken. But anger, while natural, will only keep the past alive in you. To break free, you must let anger transform into clarity, into compassion not for their actions, but for the reality that shaped them. This shift is not about excusing neglect or pain. It's about reclaiming your power by refusing to carry burdens that are not yours to bear. When you embrace this, you start to feel something unexpected: freedom. Freedom from the invisible chains that bound your emotions and behaviors. Freedom to create new patterns, to form new relationships, to hold yourself in a way that your younger self never could. This is the essence of healing, not erasing the past, but integrating it into a new narrative where you are the author, not the victim. Let's talk about what this looks like in practice. You begin by listening to yourself differently. When anxiety rises, instead of pushing it away or numbing it, you ask, what part of me is afraid right now? When you catch yourself in self-criticism, you ask, who inside me is hurting? This internal dialogue is not easy. It requires courage to meet what has long been hidden. You may discover a child who is still waiting for comfort, a part of you that never learned it was safe to be seen, to be heard, to be loved as you are. This is the invisible child within you, the living echo of your earliest self, and it wants nothing more than to be embraced. Embracing this child means slowing down enough to feel. It means creating space inside where vulnerability is allowed. This can feel risky, especially if your early experiences taught you that vulnerability meant danger or rejection. But paradoxically, vulnerability is the pathway to true strength. True strength is not about armor or control. It's about openness, the ability to face your inner world with honesty, without flinching or fleeing. To say to yourself, I see you, I hear you, I'm here. This presence is a healing balm. It rewires your nervous system. It teaches your body that safety is possible now, in this moment in yourself. As you practice this inner presence, you will notice a gradual transformation in how you relate to others. Old triggers will soften. Patterns that once repeated automatically will begin to loosen. You might find yourself reacting with patience instead of anger, responding with curiosity instead of fear, choosing connection instead of withdrawal. This is not magic. It is the natural result of creating new neural pathways, of forging a new relationship with your own emotional landscape. But it is not just about healing personal wounds. This process is deeply political and social as well, because the way we carry our invisible parents influences how we engage with the world, how we respond to authority, how we relate to power, how we participate in communities. When large numbers of people carry unhealed wounds, the collective culture reflects that pain through division, fear, mistrust. Healing your invisible parent is a radical act of cultural transformation. It plants a seed for empathy, for understanding, for peace not just within you, but rippling outward into society. This is the quiet revolution of self-awareness. You are not alone in carrying invisible parents. Every human being walks with an internal story written in childhood. Some stories are gentler, others harsher, but all carry the imprint of early attachment. Recognizing this shared experience creates connection. It breaks down isolation. It fosters compassion not only for ourselves but for others. We start to see that difficult behaviors, painful reactions, and emotional struggles are not personal failures. They are human struggles, stories of survival and adaptation. This realization is deeply liberating. It allows space for forgiveness and for new beginnings. At some point, you may feel ready to reach out for help. Therapy, coaching, community support, these can be invaluable tools on the journey. But remember, the most profound healing begins with the relationship you cultivate inside your own mind and heart. You are both the wounded child and the wise parent, the one who remembers pain and the one who offers comfort. This dual role is challenging, but it is where true freedom lives. How do you sustain this work over a lifetime? The answer is practice. Like learning a language or an instrument, healing is a skill that grows stronger the more you engage with it. Daily moments of self-reflection, gentle inquiry, and self-compassion add up. Over time, they rewrite your internal script. They teach you to recognize old patterns before they hijack your reactions. They invite you to respond with presence instead of reactivity. This ongoing practice also cultivates what many call emotional resilience, the ability to navigate life's ups and downs without losing yourself. Resilience is not about being unbreakable. It's about being flexible. It's about bending without snapping. And this flexibility is born from the security that the invisible parent could not provide, but that you can create for yourself. So, when life presents challenges, you no longer feel overwhelmed by past fears. Instead, you meet difficulty with curiosity and strength. You ask, what does this situation call for from me right now? Instead of, why is this happening to me? You come home to your center, your grounded self, the one who is capable, whole, and worthy. This is not a destination, but a way of being. Let me be clear, this journey is not about perfection or escaping pain entirely. Pain is part of life. It teaches us. It connects us. It reminds us that we are alive. The goal is not to eradicate pain, but to hold it differently. To welcome it as a messenger, not a tyrant. To feel it fully and then let it move through us. This practice transforms suffering into wisdom. Imagine what your life would look like if you truly believed you were enough. Not because you earned it, not because you fixed all your flaws, but simply because you are here alive and human. Imagine relationships where you don't have to hide parts of yourself to be loved. Imagine a world where emotional safety is the foundation of every connection. This vision is not naive. It is possible. It begins inside each of us. Returning to the invisible parent, we see that this internal figure, once a source of limitation, can become a source of insight. By turning toward this internal presence, by witnessing it without fear, we unlock deeper parts of ourselves. We discover that our emotional life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be embraced. And in that mystery lies the seed of transformation. You are invited to be curious about your invisible parent. Who are they? What messages do they carry? What parts of you do they protect? What parts do they hide?